you guys must have a huge proportion of remote workers or deskless workers. How are you engaging them in the whole employee engagement side of things? Are you using different ways of engaging with your deskless workers, or are you treating them the same as all of your workforce?
That's a great question. Paul, would you like to have a stab at that first?
Sure. Well, we're asking the same questions, so I suppose we are treating them the same in that regard. So it's not a different survey, different measure of engagement. It's exactly the same. Regarding how we get them to participate, to me, it's around making sure we have the time, we get the messaging right. So our internal communications is critical, and using different methods to get that message across, because they don't access necessarily more traditional emails and things. So how do they know it's happening? But yeah, it wasn't that long ago where I worked in businesses where you send paper copies out, expect them to fill out a paper form, send it back to us, and you get a return rate of 5% if you're lucky. What we do at VolkerWessels is actually make the time, give incentive to be at the office, get together, give them the equipment, give them the space to complete the survey. So it's not onerous. It's on us to make it as easy as possible, and it has worked. I mean, I wouldn't pretend that the participation for sort of in the field opportunities is as high as desk-bound head office staff, but it's still very good, and the engagement actually reflects that. The engagement is probably 20 points higher than I've seen in similar businesses I've worked. So it's really vital that we make the time and the effort and focus on different audiences. And obviously that was the particular question around the audience, but I think it applies across engagement generally, that we just need to make sure that whatever audiences you're trying to work with and get information from, you suit their style and what works for them. But it is working here at the moment, just giving them a bit of space, a bit of time, a dedicated time to do that, and explain. And I suppose the critical part, just to finish that off, is actually making sure they understand why we're doing it and they get the results at the end as well. So it's not just about results going out with an email from our chief exec. There are more direct communications to those teams, so they know what's being said as well, and they get the same feedback on the results that everybody else does.
Lisa, any observations on the deskless worker challenge?
Yeah, so we're actually in discussions with our supply chain at the moment around exactly that. So what's the best way of approaching it? Because of course we send out our surveys to our core HS2 staff, but the majority of our employees work within our supply chain. So it is what is the best way of doing it? Is it a kiosk through the mobile phones? And we are in the beginning stages of having those discussions. So we know that WorkBuzz can sort of offer both of those solutions. It's just really what is the best sort of solution for each of the supply chain, because obviously they're all very different organisations.
Thank you. So I can kind of from a chair's perspective of this conversation, I mean, it's worth having a conversation with WorkBuzz around what their technology is capable of doing, because they're heading towards the world in which mobile communications are available, and most people, wherever they're working, do have a mobile phone. Therefore, everyone can be accessed. So it's worth talking to WorkBuzz about that. I think the learned experience of putting time aside and ensuring that employees on construction sites are treated the same and encouraged and communicated with in order to have the same treatment and be able to finish surveys. I think that's absolutely the right approach, and I've seen that in other distributed industries as well. I think another great example would be the Openreach business in the BT world, where all of their workers in effect are out in the field, and they handle it in the way that Lisa and Paul have described.